Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Parashat Ki Teitzei is brought to you for the Refuah Shlema of Rachel Bas Chaya Etel. It's page 1046 in the Stone Edition. We have, I think, one of the hardest parashiyos in the entire Torah to read. I mean, it's difficult. On the one hand, it sounds straightforward because it's just a set of laws. It's like, checklist, boom, 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 boom. It has, I think, 74 laws, 74 mitzvos in this parsha of Ki Teitzei, which is curious. It's curious because this is, towards the end of Deuteronomy. So we know that the reason that's called Devarim is a repetition of the things that we've already heard before. It's what's called Mishnah Torah. Deuteronomy, Deuteros Nomos means second law, because Moshe is obviously repeating all the things we already knew. So you don't expect to really find many new things in Devarim. In fact, if you go all the way to the beginning of Sefer Devarim and you read the Ramban's introduction to the book of Devarim, he's like, well, these are Moshe's words, which is why you're not going to see Vaydaber Hashem Moshe Limor, which is the most famous pasuk in the Torah. Not the most famous, the most common. The most common pasuk in the Torah that repeats again and again and again is Hashem told Moshe to say. And you don't find Savis B'nai Yisrael, command the Jews, Daber B'nai Yisrael, speak to the Jews. You don't find that. The reason you don't find that is because this is not the book where you're going to do the commands. You had 4 different books for that. You had Bereshis, Shemos, Vayikra, and Bamidbar. That's where the bulk of the laws actually happen. And then, so there is a smidgen, I suppose, of laws in Devarim. Maybe 1 or 2, in each of the parshios. Maybe 5, but certainly not double digits. And definitely not 70 laws. That's crazy. So you're saying that, 550 of the laws are in the other 4 books, and then for some reason, all of a sudden, you get this massive conglomeration, boom, right here in Parashat Ki Teitzei. It's strange. I think you'll admit, for the first, just looking at it from a drone's view, is like, well, that's weird. Why are all these laws here? They could have been said before. And then the worst part, the part that I think makes Ki Teitzei impossible to read, impossible to understand, is that there doesn't seem to be a very obvious rhyme and reason and order to the mitzvahs, to the laws that are being said. It almost feels like, well, we ran out of space and context for these laws, so we're just going to put them all here. I'll give you an example. It's like you have a law of shooing away the mother bird, and then you have a law of putting a fence around your roof, and then you have a law of not planting your field with illicit mixtures. What do those things have to do with each other? It doesn't seem to be much. You have a law of don't hate an Edomite because he's your brother, and don't hate a Mitzri, an Egyptian. Rather, let their children, marry on the 3rd generation, marrying to the Jewish people. And then it tells you that you have to dig a hole if you need to go number 2 when you're in war. Then you have to dig a hole. You can't just walk to the side of the camp and do your business and as if it's a porta-john and then walk back. That wouldn't do. And for some reason, the Torah saw fit to put that next to Egyptians and Edomites. Are you saying that they're what? So basically, if you read through the parsha, you'll see on your own there's seemingly no rhyme and reason for it. So that's one thing that I think is very, very challenging about this parsha. The second thing that everybody finds challenging about the parsha is the opening of the parsha. Ki teitzei lemachama leivecha. When you go out to war against your enemy, and Hashem, your God, puts them in your hands, and He makes you victorious because Hashem loves you. And you see in the spoils, meaning we've won the war, we've been victorious, we won the battle, and now it's time to divvy up the booty. Right? So everyone has to come and say, I get this, you get that, right? We split up all of the spoils of war. And you see in the spoils, Eshet Yefat Toar. Ah, well, look at that. That's a smoke show. That's a really hot woman over there. She's so gorgeous. And you desire her. You take her as a wife. What? What did the Torah just say? I could have sworn that the Torah just said that if I'm in war in Greenland against the Vikings and I see some 6'2" monster woman, Helga, defending her children with a knife, and I'm like, I want that one. And it's like the Torah's like, no problem, take her as a wife. The Torah? I thought the Torah's against intermarriage. I thought that the main driver behind people sending their children to Jewish camps and Jewish schools is to avoid their children marrying Helga. That's literally why we're doing all this. So what's up with that? There's a mitzvah in the Torah to do that? It's like, well, calm yourself. The Torah doesn't really want you to do that. It's just saying that, I understand that you might have to. Get this, I kid you not. This is a real pshat. In fact, if you look on the bottom of the stone chumash, you're going to see this actually be written over here. It is said here. Oh, you know what? I'm going to read this to you because you're not even going to believe me if I say it. So I'll read it to you. Rather than risk sin that may lead to further spiritual contamination, the Torah provides an avenue for the lustful soldier to satisfy his desire, so that it will cool before it causes more harm. What? You mean it's okay to rape people if you're in a battle? Is that what you're saying? Because I'm reading, again, I want to read this for you, and you'll tell me if I'm making this up. In this passage, the Torah responds to the often inflamed passion of a soldier in battle. If he sees a woman among the enemy captives and feels an uncontrollable desire for her, the Torah recognizes that he might not be able to restrain himself. Because after all, when you're in battle, you're angry, and your blood is pumping, and your M16 is moving, and if you see this beautiful woman, you cannot but rape her. What are you, ISIS? Is this ISIS? Is this Boko Haram? Because where I'm from, if a soldier rapes a woman in the battlefield, he is hauled before a court-martial, and he goes to jail. You know why? Because you're allowed to shoot enemy combatants. You know what you're not allowed to do? You can't rape people. You know what's not an excuse for that? Well, I was in battle, and I was, I had a lot of adrenaline going at the time. So sad. No, how can that be? I think the best proof against this way of thinking, that we're talking about a soldier who's in the heat of battle and his bloodlust is all the way, this is how it was taught to me when I was a child, that the soldier in the heat of battle, his bloodlust is pumping so high that he can't refrain, he can't hold back from raping that woman. Which, again, as we know, is silly, because we know soldiers. Man, you and I know so many soldiers. We know so many soldiers. None of my friends who ever wore the IDF uniform or the Marine uniform would ever do such a thing. That's despicable. It's simply not true to say that that's the heat of battle like that. It's just not true. It's not a fact. And secondly, here's the proof from the Torah. You say, the Torah is different than people. Fine, whatever. You want to go that way. But I'll tell you like this. It says, V'ra'isa bashivya. V'ra'isa bashivya, which means you see in the spoils, says the Gemara, b'shas shivya, in the time of the spoils, which is to say, the battle is over. How can you have both of those ideas at the same time? How can you say that the reason that the Torah is condoning this relationship is because you don't have a way of turning it off because you're in the battle and your blood is going? It's but the Torah already said that during the battle you're not allowed to take an Eshet Yefat Toar. You can only have an Eshet Yefat Toar when the battle is over. And it's a time of spoils. So that can't be. Okay. And Torah continues, you're going to take her home. And she shaves her head and grows her nails long. Which means you take her to your house, you shave her head, you make her gross. She sits there crying over her family that you killed and her God that you destroyed for a month, and then you take her as a wife. Very difficult passage in the Torah to accept, I think, from the mind of Western civilization. Very hard to understand this passage in the Gemara. Very difficult. If it will be, if you don't want her. I'm sorry. And if you don't want her, you have to set her free. You can't sell her. You can't use her for work. You can't be like, I could have taken you as a slave anyway, because we conquered your people, so now you belong to me, and I need someone to do my laundry, and I realize you're not wife material, but maybe you're really good at folding. Torah says no. If you took her as an Eshet Yefat Toar, you're not allowed to do that. If you don't want her as a wife, you have to let her go. So that's the opener of our parsha. Man, that's rough. That's rough to go with a Western mind to wrap around this concept. Very difficult. Then the Torah moves on to the next ketat, the next paragraph, and it says, Kisiena li'ish shtei nashim. When a man has two wives, again, we're just offending all Western sensibilities here. There you go. It's a throuple. It's a throuple. A man's got two wives. One of them is beloved and one of them is hated. V'yaldu lo banim. And they both birth sons to him. The loved one and the hated one. But the hated one, she's got the older son. Ooh. And it will be on the day that you're on your deathbed at 120 years and it's time to dole out the cash. It's time to bequeath. It's time for your children to inherit. That which you have. You can't give advantage to the son of the loved one over the son of the hated one who happens to be older. Because you will absolutely give a double portion to the son of the hated one who is older. Because he is, in fact, that's the law of primogeniture. If he is the Bechor, if he is the eldest son, he gets Bishnayim, he gets double portion. He gets double portion. Doesn't matter if he's the son of the hated one. So right what the Torah is saying to you over here, the Torah is saying, listen, you have two wives, one you really, really like, one you can't stand. Like, you divorced that woman years ago, you can't stand her, she's the worst, she would burn the soup every Shabbat dinner, she would talk back to your mom, she would say mean things about your grandma, she didn't know any of the Zmiros, like, you just, you can't stand her. Except, you know what, she's got this kid, and she's got this son that it's your oldest son, and you don't even like him, because you know what? He looks like his mom. That son looks like his mom. I can't stand that boy. Every time I look at him, it reminds me of how much I suffered when I was stuck in that infernal relationship with his mother. Except now I got this wonderful new wife. We've been married for 20 years now with the new one. And you know what? She's lovely. She ain't but a bunch of sunshine. She is fantastic. She never burns the soup. She sings all the Zmiros. And her children, they're lovely. They remind me of her too. They're fantastic. They have rosy cheeks. They're so brilliant and beautiful. I love them. So you know what? I'm just going to kick this one to the curb and say, listen, your mama, she's terrible. I can't stand her, and I don't like you. And instead, I'm going to give my double portion to the younger one. Says the Torah, Lo yuchal avakeres beinu ahuva al pnei bein asnoa habechor. You can't play favorites like that and be like, well, I can't stand this one, so I'm going to make the second one the bechor, the firstborn. Ki es habechor ben asnoa yakir. No, you have to acknowledge the first one who happens to be the son of the hated one, and you're going to give him a double portion. It is what it is. Own it. Okay. That already, except for the multiple wives thing, is a little bit more understandable. Again, from our Western point of view, because we're like, well, yeah, it makes sense that you can't disenfranchise your son just because you happen to hate his mother. That's very, that seems legit. Let's move on to the next thing in our parsha. The next thing is, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. If you thought the first thing was unreasonable, you just wait till you hear the third thing. Ki elish bein soreru moreh. You got a wayward child. You got a wayward son. He's about bar mitzvah age, and something just ain't right with this one. He never listens in class. He doesn't sit nicely. He eats with his hands. He burps in public. He steals money from his parents, and he goes and he buys himself drugs and raw meat, and he eats it. Well, so what happens? He doesn't listen to his parents, and they whip him, and he still doesn't listen. So what do? I'll tell you, we take him to the court, and we stone him to death. I'm going to let you sit with that for a minute. We're like, I know he's only 13, but he's a bad apple. And sometimes you got to throw a bad apple off a cliff, even when it's a 13-year-old child. It's just kind of what you got to do. Oh boy. His whole city will stone him to death. And you will eradicate the evil from your midst. And all the Jews will see and hear. And everybody will know you better behave in school, otherwise your parents might throw you off a cliff and stone you to death with all the townspeople. That, my friends, now that is almost as bad as the ISIS bride. It's the 13-year-old rebellious son that we throw off a cliff. Now, I know what you're going to say to me. You're going to say Sprung. But the Gemara says in Sanhedrin that that's one of the Ben Sorur Umorah, the wayward child, is one of three things that were lo hayav lo asilios. They never were, and they never will be. I mean, they never happened, and they're never going to happen. It can't happen. It can't happen. Okay, it can't happen. I don't mean it can't happen that you have a rebellious child. Like, I work in a school. I've seen one or two. It's not you can't have a rebellious child. It means that this law can never apply because there are so many legal fictions that have to be true in order for this to happen that it absolutely can't happen. If you'd like an example, the Gemara says, Einenu shomea b'kolenu. He doesn't listen to our voice. And from that, the Gemara understands that it has to be that the father and the mother sound the same. If they don't sound the same, there's no Ben Sorur Umorah. Things like that. The Gemara finds all sorts of legal fictions to make sure that it's impossible to kill a 13-year-old by stoning if he's not a good kid. Fine. So thank God for the rabbis who were able to defang the evil Torah. But if you're saying to me that this can never happen, then why did the Torah put it in there in the first place? Like, why is it there? Very strange. Torah continues. When a guy did something really, really bad and he's put to death in capital court, we hang him on a tree. hang him on a tree. This is what the Mishnah says, Kol haniskalin nitlin. Everyone who is stoned to death, we hang after. We don't hang people to kill them. There is no hanging death penalty in Judaism, although I'm fairly certain that there is a hanging death penalty in the United States Constitution. Also, firing squad, I think, is in the Constitution. I think it has 3, right? Doesn't it have hanging, electric chair, and firing squad? We'd have to ask somebody that knows this stuff. We can Google it later. But anyway, in the Torah, there are 4 methods of capital punishment. Skila, sreifa, hereg, and chenek, which means stoning, burning, beheading, and choking. Those are the 4 in that order according to the Rabbanan. And if you stone somebody, if someone did something that was so heinous that you were obligated to throw him off a cliff and pelt him with stones until he died, then after he's dead, we take his corpse and we hang it on a tree. You're not allowed to leave it on the tree. Because you better bury him on that day. Because the curse of God is hanging. And do not make your land disgusting, the land that Hashem your God gives you. So the Torah is talking out of both sides of its mouth. The Torah is like, listen, here's what you got to do. That guy, he was put to death already by stoning because he's an awful dude. That's great. Pick up his body, hang it on a tree. But don't leave it on the tree because that would be horrible. So quick, take it off the tree and put him in the ground. Okay. It's almost like I say to you, if you don't want it on the tree, then maybe you shouldn't put it on the tree. And why are you hanging dead people? It's weird to hang dead people. I understand why you hang living people to make them dead, but I don't know why you hang dead people. Okay. Next paragraph. Don't see your friend's ox or your friend's lamb and they're lost. They're lost. You know how sometimes you're driving down the I-95 and you look on the shoulder and there's a cow on the side of the highway and you're like, oh man, somebody lost that cow. Somebody lost that cow. So you're not allowed to just drive by like, just drive right by and be like, man, it stinks for that guy that he lost his cow, but I'm not going to stop. No, can't do that. Can't do that. You have to return it. You have to return his cow. You have to return his lamb. That's your brother. That's your friend. That's a fellow Jew. You can't leave his lamb walking on the side of the road. No, you gotta bring it back. And you gotta do it for his shirt and his wallet and his basketball and his PS5 and his PlayStation, everything. If you find your friend's thing, Hashavas Aveda, it's a big mitzvah. Lo Tuchal L'Hitalem. You can't ignore it. You gotta bring the guy back his. You got to bring him back his phone. He lost his phone. You got to bring it back. Got to return the phone. Now that one, thank God, finally a mitzvah we can get our heads around. So okay, I should return lost items. Like now, at least I'm a good guy because I'm not disenfranchising children, throwing 13-year-olds off a cliff, raping women from a battle, or arguing over which of my sons is the oldest. So at least there's this. I'm a nice guy because I can return lost items. Let's get to the next thing. Similar case, let's say there's my friend and he's trying to get all of these, my friend sells tequila. So shout out Edgar. So my friend sells tequila and he's got these massive barrels of this incredible, amazing, astounding, colossal, fantastic tequila. And he's trying to load it on top of the donkey, but you know these barrels, they're very heavy. And the donkey starts to fall. It starts to teeter. So I see this, I have to run, and I have to help him stabilize the donkey or stabilize the ox so that the barrels don't fall down and that, it's going to be disastrous for the tequila business. It'll be disastrous. You have to help him. Hakeim takim imo. Help him to raise up his donkey, his truck, essentially, his truck, so that it can work. Again, very nice. Basically, be a good Samaritan, be a nice guy. And then I have another one. Last one in this grouping is lo yechli gever al isha. A woman is not allowed to wear men's stuff. Velo yobash gever simlas isha, and a dude can't wear a dress. Because God finds that abominable. This is what we call cross-dressing. Male and female garb is how they translate this in the art scroll. So a dude can't wear a dress, and a dudette can't wear a suit, meaning a dude suit. She could wear a dudette suit. It's a little bit it's confusing. But like if you're Condoleezza Rice or if you're Hillary Clinton, you can wear a nice suit. It's a women's suit, but you can't wear men's suit. Right? You can't wear men's clothes, and a man can't wear women's clothes. Oh man. Well, first of all, obviously everyone's chuckling because it's 2023 and we all know what's going on out there. But I think that. I'm just going to ask you a fun one, okay? Everything that I just read to you is, according to the Torah, in the same psucha. It's in the same category. Same category. Meaning, the Torah is written in outline form. So each one of these mitzvahs that we just read, Ki Teitzei the Eshet Yefat Toar, the woman who's beautiful of form, and the guy with 2 wives and 2 sons, an older one and a younger one, and the guy with the rebellious child, the Ben Sora Umora, and the guy who gets hanged, Lo Talini Lo Tolaitz, and Hashavas Aveda, returning lost items, and cross-dressing, you know what all those things have in common? According to the Torah, they're all in the same category. They're all one thing. Now that's a cool trick. If you can figure out, if you can explain to me what in blue blazes Hashavas Aveda has to do with cross-dressing or a wayward son, it's challenging. So, to be honest with you, this question has been rocking me for a very, very long time. And I realized that I was making a mistake. And that the truth is this whole thing was really a trick question. The reason it was a trick question is because the way that I was thinking about that, the way that you have to go about structurally to answer that kind of a question is you say, okay, well, obviously everything that's happening must be happening in the context of Ki Teitzei Lemachama Alevecha. It must be that the context of all of these mitzvahs is going out to war on your enemy and the Eshet Yefat Toar, the beautiful foreign woman. Like, it's all coming in that context. So that means that you have to look through everything through that lens and somehow find a common denominator that all of these things share that have to do with the woman of beautiful form. So that's the way that I've been like going about it for many, many years, and I just haven't been able to crack it. And then I realized that I was making a huge mistake, which made it impossible to solve. The mistake was that the pesucha, the open-ended break in the Torah, which signifies a new category, I'm sorry, I should give you a 30-second introduction. It goes like this. The Torah is written in outline form. It has no punctuation. It doesn't have periods, semicolons, parentheses, or capital letters. The Torah has two forms of visual punctuation, and they're both breaks in the letters. There are closed breaks and open breaks. An open break is when the gap in the line goes all the way to the end of the line. There's no writing on the other side of the line. A closed break is when there's writing on either side of the break. So you'll have a few words on the line, and then an empty space, and then a few more words at the end of that line going to the next line. So once again, open break and closed break. That's the only punctuation in the Torah. The reason that that's so important, because if your Torah has the wrong break, it's puzzle. It's not kosher. You can't read it. I mean, you can read it, but you can't use it as a Torah. So the reason that that's there, it's fundamental, because as we said before, the Torah is written in outline form. When you talk about an outline, you have meta categories and micro categories. So you have 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D, 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D, etc., etc. So whenever you come to a long break in the Torah, a break that is open at the end, a break that extends all the way to the end of the line, that is a new category. Now you're talking about, you go from 2C to 3A. To 3A. It's no longer 2. Now it's 3, and I'll have again A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it'll go to 4, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 5, etc., 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 v'chein hala, v'chein hala. In this parsha, our parsha, Ki Teitzei Lemachama Alevecha, when you go out to war on your enemy, etc., that Hashem puts in your that is not the open of the paragraph. Ooh. So then where's the opening of the paragraph? Last week's parsha. The end of last week's parsha, Parashat Shoftim, ends with, it's on page 1042. I know this is crazy. I know this sounds nuts, but here it is. You'll see it in the stone. Page 1042. It's chapter 21 in King James edition. Ki matzei chalal ba'adama. When you find a dead body in the land, Asher Adonai Elohecha nosein lecha l'rishta, that Hashem gives you, nofel basadeh, which is strewn in a field, lo noda mi'iko, you don't know who killed it. That is what we call the mitzvah of Egla Arufa. Egla Arufa. Egla Arufa is one of the stranger ceremonies in the Jewish religion. It's when there's this person that was murdered and his body was thrown in a dumpster next to the highway. So we don't know who killed this guy, right? There's no evidence. We have the detectives out. They weren't able to crack the crime. Sherlock Holmes wasn't available. So here's what you do. First thing you do is all the rabbis from the Sanhedrin. It's like a big deal, okay? So like we measure from the dead body to the closest city. Because after all, I don't know, was he killed in Dade County or Broward County? Which was he closer to? I gotta know. Is it New York? Is it New Jersey? Or is it Connecticut? I don't know. So we have to measure. So we measure to the closest city. And then, after we establish which city was closest, the big rabbis from that city, they walk out and they take a young calf and they kill it. They slaughter the calf, which is such a waste, right? You slaughter the calf, but that's kind of like the messaging. This guy died and it was a waste, so we're going to kill an animal. It's a waste, you know. So they kill this animal and then they wash their hands, figuratively and literally, very Lady Macbeth. They wash their hands over this egla, over this calf, and they say, Yadeinu lo shafchu es adam hazeh ve'eineinu lo ra'u. Our hands didn't spill this blood and our eyes didn't see. We didn't know this guy was here. And the Gemara says, I mean, did you think that the murderer was the court? Did you think that the Rebbe was the one who came and killed this guy? Obviously not. Rather, what they're saying is, Lo bali adenu upatranuhu below levaya. We didn't. It's not like he came to my house and I knew he was there, and I didn't escort him out of town. I didn't give him a snackvich so that he should have something to eat on the plane. Like, obviously, he would have come to my house. I would have known he was there. I would help him, and then maybe he wouldn't have had to die in Nebuch. That's the closing of Parshas Shoftim in last week. And it turns out that that's actually the beginning of the Pesucha. That's the meta category for all of the portions in the beginning of Parashat Ki Teitzei. Now that's really crazy. So let's go over them really quickly, shall we? The Torah is saying to you that the following items are a group. Number 1, Egla Arufa, the dead body that you don't know who killed. Number 2, Eshet Yefat Toar, the bride from the battle. Number 3, the guy with 2 wives, 2 sons, he doesn't like one. Number 4, the guy with the wayward child that you throw off a cliff. Number 5, the dude that's already dead that you hang. Number 6, Hashavas Aveda, returning lost items. Number 7, don't cross-dress. You with me? That, according to the Torah, is one thing. That is 4 A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. That means according to the Torah, it's all one thing. So let's understand what it means. Now, this is also going to create another problem, you see. The other problem is, but 1 second, Sprung, 1 second. If you're telling me that Egla Arufa is the Pesucha, if you're telling me that the Egla Arufa is the opening of all of these things, then why is Egla Arufa in last week's Parsha and Ki Teitzei is in this week's Parsha? Why don't we begin this week's Parsha with Egla Arufa, or have these things at the end of last week's Parsha in Shoftim? But make up your mind. You can't tell me on the one hand that these things are all one category, and on the other hand, I take out the first one, which is the main one, and only tell you about the next 6. So I have that problem too. Okay. So, here's what they have in common. When the rabbis come out of the Beis Din and they go to the desert, to the highway in the middle of nowhere, and they slaughter this animal that shouldn't have died, just like that guy shouldn't have died, and they wash their hands, and they say our eyes didn't see, and our hands didn't kill, and we didn't know. And you're like, I didn't think you did, though, so it's a strange thing for you to have to say. So why are you doing Egla Rufa at all? Why did the rabbis have to come out and tell me that they would have done their best had they known that the guy was here? They would have done something to help him. I'll tell you why. You see, you and I, we live in a civilization where murder doesn't make the news. Doesn't make the news. You know why it doesn't make the news? It's just not interesting. It's not uncommon. See, some murders make the news, right? If it's that crazy serial killer up in New York, like that makes the news. Or if you kill a famous person, you assassinate the Ecuadorian presidential candidate, like that makes the news. But if two neighbors in Tampa are fighting over a can of beer and one of them kills the other one, that does not make the news in Miami, I assure you. And the reason it doesn't make the news in Miami is because it's not news. Because every day, you're going to have these fights over beer and people are going to kill each other. There's no reason to put that in the news. And can I tell you something? It's a problem. That's a problem. The fact that murder doesn't make the news in your civilization, in your society, the fact that it doesn't hit the newspaper because it's not considered interesting, is because you've become so desensitized to murder that it just ain't no thing. We're not going to put it in the news. But you see, if you live in a Torah civilization, there is no murder. There's no murder in a Torah civilization. People don't kill each other in the Torah. What are we talking about? And kill each other? In fact, if there's a dead body on a highway in no man's land, says the Torah, you measure which city is closest to that dead man in no man's land. And then the rabbis come out and say, we feel terrible. If we had any idea that this guy was here, we would have helped him. We would have given him a sandwich. We would have given him an escort. We would have made sure that he get to the highway where we're supposed to go on time. Ve'einenu lo ra'u. Our eyes didn't see. You know what all these things have in common? They're things that you can't not see. I'm going to say it again. All 7 of these things are things that you cannot not see. You will see. You're forced to see. You can't unsee. And here they are in order. Number 1, Egla Arufa. You cannot ignore a no-name John Doe murder victim on a highway. You will see it. You will own it. You will admit that you didn't know. The biggest rabbis will come out and wash their hands over this guy. You will see it. Number 2, when you go to war, Vira'isa bashivya, and you see in the spoils, because you can't not see. You saw her. And when you saw her, you felt the vavavum. You felt the lightning. You got hit by Cupid. And you're like, that woman, you're not talking about a battlefield rape. That's ridiculous. Don't you understand you're not dealing with battle right now? It already said Bishas Shivya. So the issue is not bloodlust. The issue is you see that woman and you're like, I want that woman to be the mother of my children. Do you think that the reason that there's a Parashat Yefat Toar in the Torah is to get Jewish boys to not sleep around with the non-Jewish girls? Do you think that's the issue? Because I assure you that znut, that fun and games that are happening in the college campuses is not what the Torah is talking about. The Torah says v'lakachta leisha, not a date, a wife. A wife. There's something in this woman that you see, in this foreign woman. There's something that you see in her that you think, that you know, is going to make you a wife. Well, you can't unsee it once you saw it. So the Torah gives you a mechanism to make sure that really is what it is you think it is and what it is you think you see. And before you do anything else, the first thing you got to do is you have to take away all of her hotness. You got to shave her head. You got to make sure that you really want this person and not just this picture, because the picture ain't going to last, right? And then all of a sudden you're going to be stuck with a wife that you don't like, which is the next paragraph, isn't it? The next paragraph is, again, something you cannot refuse to see. Because the older son, who is the son of the hated one, Yakir, you will recognize him. You will acknowledge him. You will say, this is my eldest son, despite the fact that he looks like that horrid, evil wench of a mom that I married. Guess what? He's your eldest son. Lo mishpat ha-bechorah. To him is the law of primogeniture. You don't get to say that because this one you like better. No. You will acknowledge. Yakir, you will see. What's the next thing? A ben sorer umoreh. Talmud says it can't happen. The laws are structured in such a way that it's not possible to have a ben sorer umoreh. So then Gemara says, then what's the point of having it in the Torah? It says Josh v'kabel schar, because you could still learn from it. The Torah is telling you about a world of ideals. Obviously, we don't live in a world of ideals. So it's going to be impossible for this to ever happen legally. But that's not the point. The point is you should know that there are children who are just not right. And they will eventually evolve into adults that are just not right. In fact, he will end up being a bandit and a horrible person. And the end of that kapitel, the end of that paragraph is V'chol Yisrael Yishmeu V'yirau. All the Jews will see it. You have to see it. You can't look away. You're not allowed to look away from something like that. You have to be aware of it. You have to own it. What's the next paragraph? When someone is stoned to death in capital punishment in court because of no doubt a heinous crime, V'salisa oso al eitz, you hang him on a tree, but you can't leave him there. See, we're balancing two different values. On the one hand, we're balancing the idea that this person did something that was so awful that we have to make an example of him, which is the only reason why you ever hang a body that's dead. You hang a living guy to kill him. You hang a dead guy to make a point. Who is the point for? The non-dead people who see him. That's why whenever you would you pull into You pull into the city back in the olden days, and at the gates of the city they would have these big pikes, and on the pikes would be the heads of the pirates. Why would you put a bunch of pirate heads on the entrance to your gate? Like, that's not very welcoming. And the answer is no. On the contrary, it is very welcoming for people who aren't pirates. And to the pirates, it makes a point. You want to come in here, no problem. But if you're a pirate, that's where your head's gonna go. So now everyone walks by and says, you see, that's what happens to the pirates. You better be a good boy when you come into this town. And that's great, because if you put enough heads on pikes, you won't have San Francisco and Portland. You got to put some heads on some pikes. You can't ignore it. What comes after that? Hashavas Aveda. Returning a lost item. What does the Torah say? The Torah says, Lo sir'eh es shor achicha. Don't see your friend's cow, your friend's lamb, v'hisalamta, and you ignore it like you don't see it. Lo Tuchal L'Hitalem. You can't ignore it. You're not allowed to pretend that you don't see your friend's tefillin. 2 days ago, one of my closest friends was in Ben Gurion Airport. He's about to fly home, and sees some guy had left his tefillin. He sees, and this belonged to anybody, this tefillin doesn't belong. Doesn't know. Where's the guy with the tefillin? Let me tell you something, okay? My friend's a busy guy. You know what he's not interested in doing? He's not interested in posting signs to figure out whose tefillin these are. But he found out whose tefillin they were, didn't he? It's been 48 hours. I guarantee you that boy has his tefillin back already. You know why? Because the pasuk says, Lo Tuchal L'Hitalem. You can't pretend you didn't see. You have to see. You will see. You will pick up his tefillin. You will go on social media and ask who this boy is, and you will return his tefillin. Lo Tuchal L'Hitalem. You can't not see. And the final paragraph in this grouping is what? Cross-dressing. Lo yilbash gever simlas isha. A dude can't wear a dress. And you say to me, now this is amazing. This is mamish amazing. It's incredible, because you live in a society which is so twisted. If you walk over, I have a 2-year-old daughter, Tamar. She's fantastic. You should meet her. She's amazing. My 2-year-old daughter, if I was to walk over to her wearing Yael's dress and Yael's shaitel, and I walk over to Tamar and I smile, I go, hi Tamar, do you know how Tamar will react? I think we all know how she will react. She's 2. She would laugh hysterically. Because she knows. Now, she can't tell you the biological differences between males and females yet, because she's not 5, she's only 2. But she knows. She knows what a man is, and she knows intuitively what a woman is. And when a man acts like a woman and a woman acts like a man, a 2-year-old feels it immediately. Not because she's part of the colonial patriarchy, but because she's what we call a human. So she sees it immediately. And yet, for some crazy reason, in our civilization, you can be a 50-year-old sitting at a table with a 6'2" dude in a dress, and you don't see anything. I don't see a dude in a dress. What are you talking about? There's no dude in a dress. Really? There's no dude in a dress? Really? Oh, but there is. There is. Clearly. You know why cross-dressing is in the same category as the Eshet Yefat Toar and the Kisiya Leish and the Ben Soror Mora and the Kolin Eskal and Nitlin and the Hashavas Aveda? Because you can't not see it. You do see it. It's patently right in front of your face. Of course you see it. Don't pretend you don't see. Don't not see. The beginning of this week's Parsha is all about the things that you have to see. Now we said, but if that's the case, then why is the psucha, which is the quintessential case, is egla arufa? The thing that you're not allowed to unsee the most is the dead body that you're not allowed to ignore. And then why is that in last week's Parsha, if everything that comes in the beginning of this week's Parsha is a function of that? That's a very good question. I'll tell you why. Because last week's Parsha is Shoftim. There are things that humans, individuals see or don't see. Egla Arufa isn't about me, the individual, seeing something. It's about the court. which means that the Sanhedrin, the high court from Jerusalem, SCOTUS, has to send some rabbis down from Washington, D.C. to your local Wichita, Kansas highway to do the measuring to see the closest city to the corpse. And then the biggest rabbis, the big Rosh Yeshiva, have to come out from Wichita. They have to leave the base medrash in the middle of the shmooze, and they have to go out to the highway, to the boondocks, and they have to get their hands dirty with an animal, and they have to wash it and say, we didn't see. We didn't see. You know why that's not in this week's Parsha? Because it's not personal for the individual to see. That's societal. That has to do with the leaders of the society, which is, of course, why it's in Parashat Shoftim of Judges. It is the closing of Parashat Shoftim. Whereas our Parsha opens up with that which is most quintessentially personal. You know why? Because it's Ve'ro'isa b'shivya Eshet Yefat Toar. You see in the time of the spoils a beautiful woman. Tell me something. Who gets to define a beautiful woman? The answer, of course, is obvious. You do. You. She's beautiful to you. Maybe I see her, your friends see her, we're like, Chaim, I don't know what you're talking about, like, or whatever. But hey, man, that's why. So when it comes to the individual seeing, the best example of that is, of course, Eshet Yefat Toar. But when it comes to the concept in general of that which you must not ignore, that has to do with the Shofet, the judge, and therefore it's in last week's Parsha, Parashat Shoftim, and that's what they all have in common and have an incredible Shabbos.